This is the week 9, in which we truly enact the frame scholarship as conversation when we peer review each other's work. I imagine you have a sense of what the term peer review means. Usually that term comes up in reference to finding a peer-reviewed article, which in many ways is synonymous with a scholarly article, except that it isn't exactly. Here's a short tangent that's useful, I hope. Broadly speaking, the intellectual tradition with roots in European culture tends to place the greatest value on individual work. That's partly why we have the image embedded in dominant culture in America of a genius who writes a brilliant novel, or a composer or a visual artist coming up with unique ideas on their own in isolation, or of an entrepreneur forging a bold path that no one else has thought of. By the way, this is one of the reasons systemic racism is so difficult to tackle. Most white people who are successful economically are taught to believe that they have made it on their own individual initiative, and therefore they don't understand why everyone in the U.S. hasn't done that. Broadly speaking, the intellectual tradition with roots outside of Europe tends to place the greatest value on community and cooperative work. I know from conversations with friends raised in those cultures that this can be stifling to individual innovation. So, not surprisingly, we see that there are problems with either putting too much emphasis on the individual or too much emphasis on the community. Fortunately, there is a middle ground between those two, and I believe that the strongest innovative work in any field occurs when an individual can offer their creativity within an awareness of the context of community in which they are working. Some examples. Innovators in business are building on what others have done. Scientists do extensive reviews of laboratory work as preparation for devising and carrying out their own experiments. Those of us in the arts work with each other as we develop new works in literary, visual, and performing arts. No one works in isolation, no matter what the dominant culture tries to say to the contrary. This gets us to the intersection of peer review and scholarship as conversation. In peer review, we seek input from our peers in order to improve our work, so that you'll have a better sense of how peer review works, the strengths of it, and some problems with it. I've included 3 items this week in a section titled Resources on Peer Review. Please watch the first and last videos, items 1 and 3, and browse the short videos in item 2. Those of you in the sciences will be doing yourselves a favor to watch the videos in item 2. Even though the peer review process is imperfect, it is an interesting instance of the Eurocentric intellectual tradition manifesting the greater emphasis on community ethos that we find in the Afrocentric worldview. In itself, that's something to notice and celebrate. The guidelines from Wikipedia on how to peer review your classmates' work are well thought out and helpful. As you write the reviews, think of this as a way to be honest and supportive of the other person's work. You are helping to improve what they are doing. In grading your peer reviews, I'll be looking for evidence that you put thought into your comments, that you really looked carefully into the work you were reviewing, and that you were writing from an attitude of support. You're not so much focused on what's wrong as you are how to help the work be stronger. As always, let me know when you have questions, or if you just want to check with me about any aspect of this. Thank you for your work.